Multi-threading, processing in parallel. Concept of a thread. An application runs in the main thread. The control goes to a method, say M1, and then returns as in this figure. So you can see the flow comes into main. At this point it switches to M1, it goes to M1, completes the process, and it has to wait here until this is returned, then continues to finish. If we are able to catch hold of both ends of this flow and stretch it, it will look like a thread. The flow in fact is called a thread. Multi-threading. Suppose we were able to somehow create two parallel paths, that is the main bifurcating at this point, one goes to M1, the other continues without waiting for M1 to return. That would represent the multi-threading concept. So we can continue with the main without waiting for M1 to return. So a new thread is spawned to implement this concept. Creating threads. Java has a class thread and an interface runnable. Runnable has a method public void run. A thread implements runnable. To start a new thread, create an object of thread and call method start, passing an object of the class which is a thread or a runnable. We can extend thread or implement runnable and override the method run. Let us run a multi-threaded program. We have a class myThreadTest which extends thread, and we have a main method where we create an object of myThreadTest and call the start method. The thread in turn calls the run method and it goes to a new thread, in the sense it need not wait for run to complete before continuing with the next line. So what happens here is there is a for loop here with a 5 millisecond delay. It keeps printing this in thread, and there is another for loop in the main thread which keeps printing main again with 5 millisecond delay, and at the end it prints main end, and this thread prints thread run. So we can see a parallel running of both the threads. Let us do it. Compile. Run. So we can see the output main in thread, it's coming in parallel. But there is an issue now. Are they exactly working in parallel? As we can see, there is in thread repeated. That's because of thread racing. Whoever can capture the CPU first will execute that program. So we can see here the new thread is printed twice before main could come and print it, though there is a sleep of 5 milliseconds. And at the end you can see thread run and main end. Another way of creating a thread. So here we have a class myThread and a main method where we create an object of a helper class which is implementing runnable, and we override the run method. Here in a for loop 20 times helper is printed with 2 milliseconds sleep in between. And here what we do is, to start that thread we say new thread and pass the helper to it, which is a runnable, and start this thread. And in a for loop continue to execute. So we print main 20 times with a sleep of 2 milliseconds in between. So again here the parallel operation starts. Compile, run, we can see the output. So it's printing main helper in parallel. So here too we can see that sometimes there is a printout like helper helper or main main due to thread racing.